Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Judson Griffin. I'm the head of enterprise sales here at BrowserStack. Just want to thank you all for taking the time and joining us today. Today we're set up to discuss a pretty important and topical topic, if you will, especially in this current economic scenario. So we're starting off with companies that are being kind of forced to reduce expenses, reallocate resources, and streamline the overall operations in order for business continuity and to make sure that we're fitting within today's budget constraints. So we will dive more into that, but before so, I just want to set a quick agenda today. We'll go to the next slide. So today we'll go about 60 minutes. We'll keep time here for you all. If all participants can just stay muted so we can enable the speakers to be able to present without interruption, that would be much appreciated. But we'll also be sure to dedicate at least 15 minutes at the very end for Q&A to answer anything that you may have for our special guest here or for myself as well. We'll use Zoom Q&A window to be able to do so. But before we get started, I want to do just like a quick introduction to BrowserStack for anyone who is not familiar. But BrowserStack was launched in 2011, really on the cusp of trying to solve a problem, the problem of being able to test off multiple different browsers and do it in a very, very efficient way. And as our founders were trying to figure out how that for themselves, the idea of BrowserStack launched, and we went out into the marketplace. And since then, we have grown tremendously from acquiring 1,000 customers in a very short period of time to launching app testing. We went into visual testing. We acquired Percy in 2020, and then in 2021, we were able to get our Series B, which really launched us to be able to invest into how do we build out the testing infrastructure for our customers more and more. So go to the next slide. What has that really been able to give us? Today we have 6 million registered users and 72 billion Selenium commands per year, which is pretty incredible. Over 135 countries and customers, and 19 globally distributed data centers to be able to ensure that we have great delivery for us all. So that is BrowserStack in a nutshell. But enough about us. I want to turn it over and talk to our special guests who've been gracious with their time to be able to join us today. So I'll start off with Eric. Eric, thanks for joining. Do you mind giving just like a quick introduction to yourself, your company, your role? I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Pleasure to be with you today, Justin. Eric Gottesman, as the slide says, I'm a group vice president at Publicis Sapient. We are the digital business transformation arm of Publicis Group, one of the leading advertising and media holding companies. We engage with very large established companies that are struggling with remaining relevant in a digitally disrupted economy. So we do everything from helping them to architect their digital business strategy to actually realizing that strategy through digital products and services. So as you can imagine, quality engineering is a big part of how we help our clients to really get their digital mojo back and provide products and services to their consumers that will serve them well and create value into the future. And
Awesome.
I'll just say, I'll admit I am a recovering engineer, but in my current role, I look after our methodologies, what we call our how. So how we engage with our clients, how we collaborate with them, how our teams work together. And as part of that remit, I have responsibility for all of the tools that enable our teams to create impact for our clients.
I love that. The recovering engineer and digital mojo. I've got those two things written down. Very good. Awesome. Thanks, Eric, for that introduction. Well, we also have Pavan. Pavan that's joining us from Thomson Reuters. Do you mind jumping in and giving a quick introduction to yourself as well?
Hello, everyone. My name is Pawan. I'm a lead DevOps engineer from Thomson Reuters. I work in platform engineering team. This is a central DevOps team. We provide services to various business units across TR. I lead and architect the DevOps continuous testing pillar. That's all from my side.
Perfect. Very good. And I've already given a quick introduction to myself, so we'll move on to the next slide. But to set the context here of the conversation we want to have is, really staying ahead of the curve right now and coping with the pressure from economy has been a major challenge for CTOs, CIOs, QA leaders alike. And really narrowing down the topic at hand today is also becoming extremely challenging for developers and QA teams and test infrastructure management as we're getting more complicated, and it's getting more expensive and complicated with the fragmentation in the marketplace as well. So, some of the challenges that we are seeing and conversations that we have here with our great customers are around massive fragmentation of platforms and devices, multiple different contracts and invoices, the cost of maintaining in-house labs, and no on-demand access to the latest devices, and much, much more. So in order to kick off this topic, I think we're going to start with a poll question that we would love for anyone online to jump in and answer. So we'll give a couple of minutes for the poll to pop up and for everyone to get on. But maybe while we're waiting for the poll, Pavan, I would love, given your remit, understand, what would your answer be here? What are some of the challenges you're currently facing with your test infrastructure, if any, if we had to multiple choice you here?
Well, I would go with the second option.
Yep.
But actually, at Thomson Reuters, we have over 150 products and we have thousands of developers. And
Yep.
also, we are in the process of moving all of our software products to the cloud. So we are working on moving the on-premises applications and the on-premises data centers to the cloud. So I would go with the private cloud option here because it would be strategic for us to host our continuous testing workflows in cloud environment rather than having our own in-house device labs.
Makes total sense. Eric, I'm gonna ping you with it too while we're waiting on our on our votings here, and to see what the group here is leaning towards.
Sure. And what I would offer is, if you asked me the question 2 odd years ago, I would have said, in-house labs were going to be, becoming a thing of the past. The pandemic hit. We went all virtual. And we have over 13,000 engineers globally. You can't track your own devices in that kind of environment. Even today, we are very much a hybrid workforce, and between the the administrative overhead associated with that kind of arrangement, plus just the dynamism of the market and how quickly new devices are coming available, it just is a really a non-starter. So we were very much looking for a partner to be able to provide access to that kind of infrastructure. Where we are today, I think my concern has shifted more toward being able to manage utilization at scale, right? So when I think about what's value for our customers, what's value for our business, we started from a place of having dozens of separate subscription plans, all with their own different pricing, and at any given time we have a few hundred teams that are doing projects for our customers. these teams, some of them are small, some of them are very large, and those teams change over time. And what that meant is it was a very lossy system. Right? We'd have a lot of subscriptions that teams were buying licenses, and then the team's needs would change, and you'd have licenses going unutilized. So that sub-optimization of our subscription utilization was a real problem, and we just didn't have great visibility into where there was churn in the system and where there were resources that were going underutilized, and consolidation became a real kind of rallying cry to just deliver better value for our teams and to be able to pass that value on to our customers.
Amazing. It makes a lot of sense. All right, team, do we have enough answers to have what was our most important and tracked answer to the question? All right, there we go. So it looks like Haven, you're right aligned with a lot of the members here on the call today. So private cloud and in-house device labs. So it seems like a lot of people are facing some of the same challenges you are. So great to know, and great context as well. Thank you all for answering. All right, so let's move over and just love to just spend a little time getting to understand kind of what you're seeing in the market, what challenges and differences are you seeing, how is BrowserStack being able to assist with those. But maybe to kick things off, Peyton, do you mind maybe kicking off with sharing, like, how did you come to start using BrowserStack in the beginning? How are you leveraging us now, and a little bit about what that journey was along the way? It would be great to hear.
Sure. So a couple of years back, most of our applications were either supporting IE browser or Chrome browser, but we were not supporting various browsers. There are a lot of browsers that people use across the world, and Thomson Reuters being a multinational company, we have presence in over 50 countries and have 150 over 150 applications. So the presence is very huge. So we have user base coming from different browsers and different. We also have mobile applications, and nowadays the usage has switched over to the mobile devices. We have more traffic coming in from mobile devices, especially the public websites such as thomsonreuters.com. We have more traffic coming from mobile devices. So that puts us focus on the cross-browser and mobile tablet device testing. So about 2 years back, we started this journey to provide cross-browser and device platform support. And we've been promoting cross-browser device across Thomson Reuters. And soon we will have support for various browsers for all of our products. We're almost there, yeah, but not yet.
Very good. Amazing. Eric, maybe same question to you. Love to, how did you come in to start using BrowserStack, and how are you leveraging it today, and what's that journey been like along the way?
Yeah, so as I kind of alluded to in my earlier comment, it kind of grew into the company organically. We had multiple teams. So ours is a professional services business. We build digital products and services for lots of clients, brands globally, and those teams don't necessarily talk to one another. We do have a quality engineering craft, community or center of excellence, and over time we figured out that there was some commonalities. Teams were using some similar tools, and we saw an obvious opportunity there to optimize, build greater, fluency with, a few, closely trusted, technology partners, as opposed to just a long tail where, teams have to go through sort of the storming, norming, cycle over again and again, learning new tools all the time. I think that journey began about 3-4 years ago, in that fashion. since then, what we've seen, I think, two trends. One is, yes, a shift towards um, more of focus on mobile, but also, in particular, the Percy acquisition, visual QA, and attendance to concerns such as accessibility. Those have really grown in this period. And so, BrowserStack, I think, has been notable for, being on top of some of these market trends and being very open to engage with us in conversation about how can the offering track with and kind of pivot into these concerns, which are becoming increasingly important for our clients. So that's one big kind of theme. And then the second one, of course, which I also alluded to, was consolidation, and just simply getting better handle on our spend and the utilization of the resources that we have.
That's great, and thank you for that. So maybe on that topic, I'll maybe ask one second additional question to that I think aligns well with that, which is, in this kind of current context of the global economic, where the consolidation and tool alignment is becoming more important, and as you guys are pushing to help bring out the digital mojo, if you will, to the different business units and drive their digital business strategy, like what's beyond, how important is it to not only yourself, but you feel like the teams, to have some of that alignment of tools and maybe consolidation of vendor for best practice perspective, and just from like a relationship perspective?
Well, one part of that, so when you talk about relationships, our business is really a relationship business. We seek to engage with our clients in long-term partnerships in their transformation, not just sort of transactional web development work. And when we show up for our clients, if from one engagement to the next, or across the portfolio of work, if we keep showing up with different tools and different techniques, we look a little bit disorganized, right? And so ensuring that when we show up for our clients, we present ourselves, with a very consistent set of values, techniques, the tools to bring those techniques and those values to life. That's very important to, our brand, who we are, what we believe in. And to have a partner in the software testing space that is able to offer a suite of tools where, if we're doing app development work, or if we're doing visual QA work, it's like we can reference the same partnerships, the same relationships, and bring a consistent set of tools. That's very important to us, right? And the fact, as I said, that BrowserStack's been very good about kind of engaging in dialogue over time and understanding, what we're hearing from our customers, what our needs are, and really helping to kind of co-create the shape, the trajectory of the suite. That's been very satisfactory.
Great, thank you for that. And Payman, back over to you. Like maybe similar conversation, similar question. As it pertains to having a best-in-class vendor to be able to have tools that your team can use, and as you guys are going through the transformation that you've described before, like how important is that to have that consistency of best practices and a kind of one-stop shop, if you will, obviously, to try to consolidate as many of those priorities as possible?
Sure. In a company where you have hundreds of applications and thousands of developers working, right? There could be a possibility you have different tools present for the same purpose. There could be same, for example, it could be test automation tools, or CI/CD tools, or cross-browser testing tools. There could be a wide variety of tools that could be being used by different products. it's very important to have a similar set of tools. And so we need to cut down, we need to choose one tool over the other tool. So for that, you need to make a decision-making process. You need to go through the decision-making tree to identify which tool we should use. And that should be consistent across the organization, because it is, because you can, if you have that consistency, we can, the resources, the team members can move from one team to another team. And also we can keep the cost in control. And so basically cost, benefit, and also easy for the developers to move around the team, right? And there are many other advantages as well, security and sourcing. There are a lot of things that go through that needs to happen, right? So thank you.
Yes, absolutely.
I could also
Maybe,
just add, Justin, one thought that Pavan triggered for me is in our business, we don't always have the luxury of being able to specify what tools get used. Sometimes we have to adapt to or work within our client's environment, particularly when we're co-creating something. But by virtue of had a scale relationship with BrowserStack, and having exposure to kind of all the tools in the tool chest, when we see a gap in the tooling that our client has in their ecosystem, to be able to inject a point of view and offer a suggestion or recommendation, which helps them to build their in-house capability, we found that to be very useful. And again, being able to go back to a few kind of tried and tested partners, in that territory, that's been very valuable for us.
great. Yeah, thanks for that additional context. On that note, like maybe this back to you too, Eric. Like I know that in the spirit of helping identify gaps in tools, make recommendations, and being able to procure and also be able to utilize tools. In this environment where everyone is looking at cost and they're making sure that they have the right tools for the right place, like maybe outside of BrowserStack, can you give a little bit of perspective of like some of how you are working with your teams to help ensure that they are still getting the tooling that they need, and at the same time, being a steward of cost consciousness?
So it's a balancing act. We want to drive standardization and consistency kind of at the core, because that's how we get the scale. But we also want to provide our teams with some space, to innovate at the edge, right? Where, a team, with a client, they have unique, or certainly differentiated needs that may not be, perfectly well served by kind of our standard methods and tools. And so, what we've tried to do is create an ecosystem where the tools connect well with one another, right? And in some cases that means foregoing having sort of the absolute best of breed specialized tool in a certain area, kind of provided out of the box by the business, by the central authority over these things. I'm pleased to say that over time, I think BrowserStack has it has grown its footprint within our organization to the point now where it's certainly one of the most prevalent solutions that we use in the software testing space. We use it alongside other things like Jira and test management for Jira. We use it alongside other proprietary in-house built tools and other client side tools, but we want to provide a feed. Ultimately, it's got to be a virtuous cycle of feedback with our teams to understand what is and isn't working for them. So one example that comes to mind recently is we had a team that was servicing a US-based client in a highly regulated environment. Right? And they are subject to regulatory restrictions that we found put them in conflict with many of our other teams. And we essentially, are running in a multi-tenant environment. So one big BrowserStack enterprise plan, lots and lots of teams servicing lots of different customers. BrowserStack, was very willing to get on the phone with us, talk through what that mismatch in requirements was that put this one team in conflict with the rest of our organization. And we're able to, figure out how we could create some separation so that they could address their needs, which, in their case was very focused on geographic regional restriction of access to the test data, right? We needed to be able to use other features on other teams that would not have, allowed us to do that kind of restriction, but we were able to work through that. And the fact that you've got the scale that you have, the different data centers that you have, meant that we could kind of have our cake and eat it too. We could satisfy the needs of both types of teams.
Great. Thank you for that, and glad to hear BrowserStack is being able to help and deliver. So I appreciate that. Maybe over to you. Maybe a similar question. As you guys are going through the on-prem transformation, you've got a lot going on, obviously, but with a very unique time of cost-cutting initiatives going on within every organization. Has that been an impact to you and the things that you're trying to deliver to your members of your team? And how are you overcoming the challenges to ensure that you still have the tools you need to meet your overall goals?
Sure. We have, all the companies have the cost cutting initiative happening, right? Who doesn't want to save some money, right? So we have those challenges as well. So what we do is we reduce the expense where possible, and we spend that where it's actually required. So here what we do is, when it comes to the continuous testing area, for example, we save the money at the test automation tool. We don't use record and playback tools like RPA tools for test automation. Instead, we use the open source tools such as Selenium, WebDriver, Playwright, and all. And we, in order to run these tests on the cloud environment, once we do the deployment, we need to run the actual tests. And as well, every day we need to run the regression tests. For running those tests, we leverage GitHub Actions and BrowserStack. So yeah, we save where it's possible, and we spend that where it's really required.
Great. So I have to ask the question, as I'm sure, where you're not spending where we can get away with, and you really using that on the vendors and tools where you're required. I'm sure you've used other vendors and solutions similar to BrowserStack, and we've been fortunate enough to partner with you, and you continue to scale with us. Any feedback you can provide on, what are some of the shortcomings of previous solutions or vendors that you've had that you've been able to benefit from by the capabilities of BrowserStack?
Sure. We earlier worked with one another cross-browser testing vendor. We had challenges with devices. We didn't have the real mobile devices. That's one important problem we have seen. BrowserStack is able to provide us real mobile devices. And moreover, there's a lot of traffic coming to our websites through the mobile devices. So it's strategic for us to go with BrowserStack. And also BrowserStack has got really good features such as BrowserStack SDK that gives us easy way to get started, and documentation and support, and few other things as well.
Great. Thank you for that. Eric, maybe back over to you. As a key decision maker in your role, like, what are some of the current recommendations for any organization that you would give as it pertains to like contract consolidation and what you have learned through this process as some of the key things that to look for when thinking through consolidation?
Yeah, I mean, it starts as a conversation. And we were lucky that we were paired up with a wonderful, account executive on your team, Kevin. Shout out to Kevin. And we just approached it as a conversation on, just unpacking, what are our priorities? What are we trying to accomplish, right? For us, it started with just visibility. We didn't know what we were using. We are, Publicis Sapient, part of the larger Publicis group, which has upwards of 1,500 legal entities, right? So it's a complex organization. And we just started kind of, marching through all the different domains that we manage and figuring out where there might be people, leveraging the technology. And, Kevin, our account rep, he helped us actually open the doors of communication internally and figure out who we needed to be talking to, just to understand what was the extent of our utilization and what was the diversification in use case, because the way that we were using the tech wasn't necessarily the way that some of the other businesses within the group were using it. So we wanted to make sure that we were preserving, differentiated needs where those had to be catered to, whilst also addressing, commercial interests around, value for the, for the scale of the utilization that we had. So it started with, visibility, just understanding our footprint, starting small, consolidating, growing that, and then within that consolidated structure, getting a better understanding for some of the, what I would call trade motions. So how do teams spin up and shut down? And what are the typical cycle times, between new teams forming and new teams, wrapping up their work or progressing through parts of the life cycle where they would have, perhaps burstable needs, right? They might reach a period of very intensive, pre-production testing for a retail client heading into the holiday shopping season. And so we needed to be able to understand some of the, the cyclical forces in our use pattern over time, and look at where was there some flex in the numbers, where we would need to be able to move licenses around, reallocate them, and start to get get a trend line going. Really, get some visibility to where we think we're heading. If we're going to add 10-12% to our QE headcount in the coming year, what do we think that's going to do for our licensing? And what do we think that's going to mean in terms of geographic distribution? What is happening with the geographic distribution of our clients? And do we have partners, in place that are able to kind of meet us where our clients are? Because as we all know, the devices that are available to a consumer in the US are not the same devices that are available in Asia Pac, right? And to have one platform which gives us the benefits of, that kind of real device capability in multiple regions is really tremendous.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for that. Payman, back over to you. How do you think, as a DevOps professional, that a leader can be successful, and maybe it's leaders on your team, like leveraging BrowserStack to its fullest?
Well, to be a successful DevOps engineer or a quality assurance engineer, first we need to have really good understanding of testing. We need to have the basic of testing, why we need to do the cross-browser testing, or why we need to do mobile tablet device testing, and few other testing concepts, first of all. And then we need to have programming language knowledge, such as JavaScript or Java or TypeScript, Python, or one of the programming language. And we need to have shell scripting knowledge. Then, and BrowserStack, of course, it provides a platform where we can run the tests, various types of tests, such as cross-browser, device, and visual testing features. So it's up to the DevOps engineer or a quality assurance engineer to take advantage of it with their knowledge. Yeah.
Great. Very good. And then finally, maybe, this little overlapping, but, how do you think developer and QA teams will benefit from BrowserStack as like a single cloud for all testing needs and across, multiple different tool sets?
Well, BrowserStack, I think BrowserStack do provide support for CI/CD tools such as GitHub Actions, Jenkins, or you can run your tests from AWS. If you're a DevOps engineer and if you're trying to run any of the tests, it does provide support from anywhere. And the recently launched BrowserStack SDK is pretty awesome. It will help you get started very easily, and it will reduce the amount of effort that you need to spend to get started, right? So you could be, obviously it's a single cloud provider platform that you can take advantage of running all sorts of tests.
Yeah, great. Thank you for that. Very good. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. I think what we'll do from here is we have one more poll question. We'll get to the team and we'll take a couple of minutes to get the answers here. Here we go. Here's the poll question. So multiple platforms. Do you currently leverage multiple infrastructure platforms for your testing needs? Yes or no? And then once we get the poll open and get the decisive vote here, we'll move over to some Q&A from anyone who has questions for Eric or Prema. So I'll have to ask while this is up, obviously the consolidation and vendors, etc. Eric, have you been able to successfully consolidate the tools related to BrowserStack all under BrowserStack, or are you still getting there?
I'd say we're materially there.
Great.
With the caveat I mentioned earlier, which is we don't always have the luxury of dictating which tools will get used. We have to meet our clients and their other partners where they are sometimes. But generally speaking, we've been pleased with the progress that we've made over the last 2-3 years in consolidating around BrowserStack.
Very good. Very good. Pavan, have to ask the same question to you. I think I see the poll is open. I think 67%. Can we flash it one more time? There we go. 67% is using multiple infrastructure platforms, where 33% are consolidated under one. How about yourself, Pavan?
We use multiple platforms as well, but when it comes to cross-browser testing, we use the BrowserStack.
Very good. Excellent. Well, thank you both. Well, let's take this time to pause and turn it over for any questions that come through. I believe we're fielding questions via chat and take anything that the folks online have for our guest here. Any brave first questions? All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I've got a few more questions teed up here that I'll ask as we're awaiting some others. Um, yeah, Payman, over to you. And since moving to BrowserStack, I know you've talked about how you've used it and how your teams are using it, but just from like a product delivery quality standpoint, have you seen that improve?
Of course, the cross-browser testing and device testing is providing a lot of benefit for us. Previously, we had users that used to report issues from other browsers where we didn't have support. Nowadays, we do provide support for all the popular browsers, Chrome, Edge, Safari, Firefox, and we are in the process of implementing the support for other browsers as well.
Right. Excellent. Eric, over to you. So, along with addressing the issues of like multiple invoices and you kind of thank you for walking us through like how you the framework of consolidation that you went through or are still going through, but did having a single contract also address a lack of awareness issue among teams or any of the end users by getting it all in one place?
Two-part answer to that. So first I'd say is, whether you've got a single contract or not, that doesn't remove the obligation around effective communication, within the enterprise, right? We've got to have our ground game sorted out in terms of how we raise the visibility, the awareness of these solutions that our teams have access to. And part of that is, part of the value proposition is it's not just the tool, but it's the training, it's the availability of enablement resources. We've got, world-class support. When you've got questions, when you can't find a particular browser version or or device, you need to understand, what the roadmap for availability looks like, to be able to influence the roadmap, gain access to alpha and beta features from time to time. So making clear what is the kind of the full package, the full value proposition is that's an internal obligation, that my team takes very, very seriously. That is the same whether we've got a single contract or not. Second part of the answer, what I would say is having that single contract has given us a real leg up, and I believe it has kind of paid dividends in terms of the perception of the tools, internally, because when a team needs access, they don't have to, charge it to a credit card, wait to get reimbursed, or wait for the PO process to, reach its, its terminal, conclusion. There's no lead time apart from request and response with my team, right? So we can do that on demand, just in time provisioning of, access to virtually all of the products within the BrowserStack, suite, for our teams across the world. And that's been a tremendous value.
Great. We've got one question, and so taking it as a follow-up here, is I want to make sure we get back the appropriate answer, but the question was, can we do any distributed data testing using BrowserStack, like for application using Kafka for data distribution? I'm fairly certain that answer is yes, but I want to get a exact answer for you. So we'll be trying to get it here in the background, and if not, we're happy to follow up with you offline. Well, perfect. Well, if there are no more questions, we are at 50 minutes, and I promised to get everyone out here before the hour mark, so we can wrap up. But before doing so, just want to give a quick plug. we do have just a leadership summit for May 3rd. Please register, as we would love to have you all as attendees as well, with a great discussion point here as well. But thank you, Eric. Thank you, Pavan, so much for your time and your advice and your commentary and from taking all of my questions. And we really appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion. And thank you all for joining. I hope everyone got great information and knowledge out of this. And if there's anything you need as feedback or questions that come after the fact that we can assist with, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're happy to help. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.